All right, I think we've got everybody. So we'll go ahead and take those balls like either on top of your block or they can be in your hands, and we're going to lay down. We're going to start off breathing and connecting with our breath while we release the neck. So again, on top of the block, if you have one, you'll go ahead and get yourself set up there. Now you might also check in, and that might be too much for you. So if it is, you can remove the block. If you don't have a block, you can just hold the ball in your hands, and that's what you'll do also if you happen to not have a tote for your balls. So go ahead and get yourself situated, and then just take a moment and close your eyes. And start to tune into your breath. I probably say it 100 times in our time together to breathe, but it's so important. In fact, breath work has become an integral part of so many practices nowadays. Of course, the yoga practice, but also the PT, physical therapy world is using breath work. The athletic trainers out there training the professional athletes are teaching breath work to instill calm or to excite the body. It can work either way. But for right now, we're trying to use our breath to center and arrive in this space. So we're giving ourselves this amazing gift of taking an hour to focus on creating a physical and emotional state of being that will promote health and wellness. So take a big belly breath. Hold the breath at the top. And then very slowly exhale through the nose or through pursed lips until you're empty. And then pause at the bottom of the breath as well. So you'll pause at the top and you'll pause at the bottom of the breath. And then start to move your head around. You can go side to side, yes and no with the neck, maybe some circles. Now, if you happen to only have one ball, you'd hold that one in your hand and just do one side of your neck at a time. But I definitely recommend purchasing the double ball so that you can do a little less efforting and just be able to relax your head and neck without having to balance one ball on one side of your neck. But if you happen to be just doing one side, you'll switch now so that you can even yourself out. Continue with your breath and you can keep moving, or if you find a spot where you should just simply stay and breathe, and do that. We'll be here for 5 more breaths. So if you happen to see my Facebook post, I mentioned that we'd be focusing a little bit more today on 2 meridian lines. One is the gallbladder meridian line and one is the large intestine meridian line. That may not make any sense to you, but if it's of interest to you, I can send you information also. But they're energetic lines that run through the body. It's really kind of a concept, a Chinese medicine concept, acupressure, acupuncture, if you've ever heard of those. So when we do our fascial lines, like we're going to do today, you're actually affecting these energetic lines as well. So if there's stuck energy in these lines, we're going to be addressing that stuck energy. Take one more big breath in and a long breath out. And you can start to remove the balls and the block, and you can have a seat. Or if it's more comfortable for you to stand, then you can stand. So ideally, when we're doing what we're going to do next, which is some releasing of the neck, you want to have a tall spine. So if when you sit, you kind of end up like this, I'd rather you actually stand up or sit on a block or something that allows you to have your tall spine. So we just released the neck with the balls. We're going to now do a little stretching to follow up. So with your tall spine, whether sitting or standing, go ahead and start to bring your right ear to your right shoulder. And then a gentle placing of the hand on the side of the head so that you can stretch the side of your neck on the left side. And we're not trying to yank into it. You really want to just, it's almost just like the pressure of your hand. So on this left side of your neck, you're actually addressing that large intestine meridian line. It goes down the side of your left side of your neck and into the chest and arm and even down into the hand on your left side. And bring that up and we'll switch sides. Again, left ear now to right shoulder. Just a gentle side of the head. And if that's too much, you don't have to do that. Just the ear to the shoulder is enough, that's fine. Keep remembering your tall spine and keep remembering your breath. Now on this right side and all down the right side of the body, through the chest, through the side ribs, through the hip and down the leg, all the way into the side of your foot is your gallbladder meridian. Take a deep breath in and a slow, intentional breath out. And you'll slowly lift the head back up. We're going to bring your nose and turn your nose and chin towards your right armpit. And then you can bring the hand to the back of the head and we'll get a little bit of the back of your neck here. And again, if that's too much, you don't have to do it. But if it's okay, then just mostly the pressure of the hand on the back of the head. Make sure you don't start slumping down. The tall spine is important. Take a deep breath in and a long breath out. Gently release that head back up and we'll go the other way. Turn your head, nose and chin towards the left armpit and the left hand gently on the back of the head. Full inhale, long exhale. Another deep breath in, and another long breath out. And gently lifting back up. So we have one more, and it's for what we call the scalenes in the front of the neck. Believe it or not, When all of this back here feels tense, it's sometimes because what's really tight is in the front and pulling our head forward, which pulls on these guys back here. So what we're going to do is actually turn your head to the right, gently tip it back, but at the same time, we can use one or both hands to lengthen the tissue in the front of the chest. So we can either put the left hand just on this right side. We're stretching the right side of the front of the neck. Or I actually like to use both hands and just a little tugging on the skin. Now, what you don't want is a pinching in the back. If that's what you feel, shake it out and try again. So we're not just dumping straight back. We're thinking of a lengthening of this front side of your neck. Take a deep breath in and a long breath out. And carefully bring your head back up and we'll go the other way. So chin and nose aim a bit towards the ceiling and either both hands do a little lengthening of this tissue, or you can just take your right hand to this left side, whichever's more comfortable for you. And when I say comfortable, like what allows you to feel this stretch in the neck the best. If you're feeling a pinch in the back, shake it out and try again. And slowly return to center. All right. So we're going to take your balls out of your little tote if they're in there. And we're going to be placing both balls on your trapezius muscles. So not on the neck where we had them earlier and not on the outer shoulder, but in between there. So right there, one on each side. If you only had a single ball, you'll just do one side at a time. But we'll go ahead and place both if you have two. And make sure your hair doesn't get stuck in there if you have longer hair. So we'll tuck those guys in there, check in. You can start to do some arm movements over the head, snow angel arms across your body. If you're doing that and you're thinking, I'm not feeling very much, you could do one of two things. Either simply lift your hips up and hold, or you could slide a block underneath your hips to hold the hips upright. And then you can continue to do those movements with the arms. Arms go overhead, arms move like a snow angel. Arms can cross the body and reach out. You can even kind of just squiggle back and forth so the balls roll side to side. Now, if you're doing this and you're like, wow, this is so intense, I can't hardly stand it, you might choose to take your balls to the wall and do some similar things. The arms can move up and down across the body. You can wiggle side to side. So honor where you are. And if you just got your yoga tune-up balls, they're probably pretty hard, which means it's going to be way more intense than mine that I've used a million times. I probably should get some new ones. So honor that. And if you need a little less, give yourself a little bit less. I mentioned last week, one way to soften up those balls a little bit though is to actually do a lot of rolling of your feet with the balls. So continue to check in with your breath and breathe deeply. You might pause. So I might pause with my arms overhead for a breath or two. Or I might pause with my arms across my chest. I might squiggle around side to side with my arms across my chest. Of course, if you just had the one ball, you'd want to spend some time on each side. So make sure you do that. Switch sides if you're using just one ball. Otherwise, we have 10 more breaths to continue to move or be still. Now, if you've got the balls on both sides, you're affecting both the gallbladder meridian and your large intestine meridian here. The gallbladder meridian is often associated with anger and frustration. And the large intestine meridian is often associated with worry and grief and sadness. So interestingly enough, when we feel grief or sadness, or we feel anger or frustration, it can actually affect these meridian lines energetically. It can create stuck energy in these meridian lines. And at the same time, if you happen to have stuck energy in these meridian lines, you might start to feel angry or frustrated and not even know why. Or you might feel sad or feeling like you're grieving and you're not even sure why. You can move some of this stuck energy and hopefully feel better all the way around, energetically and emotionally and physically. Let's take 3 more big breaths. Whatever you're doing, if you feel like you're done, you can just remove those balls. One more big breath in. And one more long breath out. And go ahead and remove the balls in your block and start to make your way onto your hands and your knees. So we'll stretch some of this area by doing a arm stretch now, shoulder and arm stretch. So you'll start to tuck your right arm underneath you and you'll lay right on top of your arm. So you might put your forehead on the opposite hand. So it's my right arm all the way over to my left. Now, if you're doing this and you're thinking, yeah, I'm not really feeling too much, you have a couple options. You can sit your hips back, hips towards heels. For some folks, that's going to do the trick. And for some people, you might even need to lay all the way down on top of your arm, but do make sure that you're still spinning your chest towards the ground. So oftentimes people will get down here and then they start to roll away from the stretch. So find a position where you're feeling that stretch in the outer right shoulder, even into the shoulder blade area and upper trap area. If you're pinching in the front, you might need to adjust the arm up or down. So just as needed. Take 3 more breaths on this side. And then after those 3 breaths, we'll start to make our way to side number 2. No hurry. If you feel like you need to stay for more, you stay for more. Take another deep breath in and out. And then start to make your way to side number 2, sliding your left arm under. Check it out. Maybe on the knees is appropriate for this one. Maybe hips towards heels. Or maybe you lay all the way down on top of your arm. So it truly doesn't matter what it looks like, as long as you're feeling what we're trying to feel, which is a release in this left shoulder now, maybe up into the trap or into the shoulder blade. If you're feeling that, it doesn't matter which position you've taken, it's perfect. So on this left side again, addressing the meridian line of the large intestine. If any emotions pop up while you're doing some of these, don't be surprised. Again, certain emotions are trapped in the body in these meridian lines. Take a couple of more big breaths in and super slow, long breaths out. And then when you're ready, you'll start to make your way up and out. And then you'll find your Pilates ball if you have one. And once again, if you don't, a rolled up towel or a pillow can also work. So you're going to be laying down on your right side on top of the ball. So the ball is going to go on your right rib cage. Okay. So you'll kind of keep playing with where it feels appropriate. You might place a block under your head or another pillow, but you don't have to. So feel what it feels like in your body. If it feels too intense without a block or a pillow, then you put something under your head. Bend your knees so that your back is supported. Now, if you feel anything uncomfortable in your back, I recommend some support between your thighs as well. So when I say back, I mean lower back. And then start to really breathe deeply so that When you breathe, you'll feel your rib cage and lungs press into that diaphragm, even press into the ball. Full inhale, expanding on both sides. Pause. And then a really slow exhale. And pause. And breathe in again. And pause. And a slow exhale. And pause. And again, breathe in. Hold the breath. Slow exhale. And hold the breath out. Now you can absolutely just stay here and keep breathing just like this. If you want to add, you can add a sweeping of the arm. So your left arm sweeps over the head, back behind you, check in with your back, and then comes back around. Breathing through this. So inhaling, sweeping the arm back behind you. Exhale. And then inhale, back over the head. Exhale. And keep breathing. Inhale. And exhale. Again, you can move or you can be still. Both are effective. Inhaling. And exhaling. And one more time, breathe in. And breathe out. And we'll take one more big breath in together here before we move. One more exhale. And very carefully start to make your way off of the ball. And make your way to side number 2. So the ball will go underneath your left rib cage now. Again, maybe a block under your head, maybe not. See what feels appropriate for you and your body. Adjust that ball until it feels, it might be a little uncomfortable, but comfortable enough. Remember, you could always put more or less air in your ball if you feel like you're not getting enough pressure, you feel like it's too much, you can certainly adjust the amount of air in the ball. Take a big breath in. Pause. And a slow breath out. And pause. And breathe in. And pause. And breathe out. And pause. And breathe in. Pause. And breathe out. Good. Now, particularly if you're going to start sweeping your arm, make sure your knees are up in line with your hips and maybe supported by a block. knees bent. Option to start sweeping your arm up and over your head and back behind you. And then slowly come back. And inhaling up and over your head. Exhale. Bring it back. Inhaling. And exhaling. And inhaling. And slowly exhaling. One more time, inhale. And exhale. We'll take one last breath in and out together. Breathe in. And slow exhale. And start to make your way up and off of your ball and blocks and all of that. Coming on to your hands and knees. Start to walk both sets of your hands to the right, your right hand corner of your mat if you're on a mat, and your right forearm might come down as you really lengthen out your left arm. And you'll be stretching into your side ribs, what we just stretched with the ball. And relax under that armpit. Side body. Breathe in. Breathe out. And start to walk it to the other side. And really lengthen out the right side body. And start to make your way up. All right. So you're going to need one of your balls to start, but do have the other one nearby. So you're going to be laying down on your back. You'll take a single ball underneath your right glute. Go ahead and lift your hip, place the ball. And you'll start to clamshell out the right knee, out and in. And keep moving that ball around until you find a place where it seems like it should stay. There might be more than one. Just pick one. Once you've picked that place, start to shimmy your hips side to side. And if you feel like you're not getting what you need, you might cross your ankle, right ankle over left thigh. That can expose your piriformis a bit more, which can certainly be a little tender, so please be careful. Again, side to side, you can kind of dip to the right and then back to center, dip to the right, come back to center. If all of that still doesn't seem like enough, you could sit all the way up. It'll put a little more pressure on that ball. Even in this upright position, you could cross ankle over thigh. And at the same time, if all of this feels like too much, you can come up onto the wall and do some similar movements, side to side. Here you can go up and down. Same if you're sitting. Make some circles if you're sitting or standing. Now you could certainly tune in and maybe find a place where it makes sense to just be still and take a few breaths. Just always coming back to that breath. And remember, we're not necessarily going to a 10 in terms of intensity. And if it is, or if it's so intense you can't take a deep breath, move it a little away from that spot. You're still getting amazing work, even if you're not right on top of the most intense area. So start to turn your body a bit to the right. So you might be on your forearm. You might be all the way down. You might be up on your hand. But what we're trying to find is this little pocket on the right side. So it's right here. Now this can be very, very intense. So sometimes putting 2 balls there instead of 1 can distribute the pressure so it's not so intense. Now, you might be bumping a bit against some bone, so hopefully you're not using something much harder than these yoga tune-up balls. You shouldn't bruise yourself with these balls, but I'm not making any promises. Be careful. Remember to check in. If it's so intense, you can't take a deep breath, move it a little, forward, back, up, down, whatever you need to do. And of course, always the option to take it to the wall. So I'm gonna be a little more sideways now here. And I could do this with 1 or 2 balls against the wall also. I would just place them here like this. Stacked on top of each other is one way, or even side to side. So you can kind of figure it out for yourself. But what we're trying to get is a little bit of this little pocket, this upper outer part of the glute. This is a connection point, the very top of your IET band. So if you tend to have a really tight IET band, that's that connection from your knee to your hip, this will be helpful. Sometimes when we have a tight IT band, it'll affect our hip, make our hip sore, or our knee sore, or even our backs. This is all along that meridian line of the gallbladder again. So if this is making you feel angry or frustrated, don't be surprised. All right, so we'll gently release out of that. And we're going to come to side number 2, starting with the big fleshy part of our glute again on the left side. So maybe we start with laying down and doing some clamshell type maneuvers with the left knee. And Keep moving the ball around until you find a place that seems like it's going to be really effective. And you can start to shimmy side to side. Of course, ankle over thigh or sitting up is another option if you're feeling like you need more. Remember, more isn't always better. So you'll know that it was too much if when you stop doing the rolling, you feel worse rather than better. So it should feel more relaxed, not more tense when you're done. If it feels more tense when you're done, you went too deep. So that means you needed to move it to a different location or do something less intense. Like I mentioned earlier, take it to the wall. So honor what you need today. Every day is going to be different, so honor that. Doing whatever you need to do to be in a state of relaxation, even if it's a little uncomfortable. So that might mean closing your eyes. That definitely could mean taking deeper breaths. That could mean move the ball to a little different location. So this is a wonderful practice to do something a little uncomfortable and learn to be okay with it by breathing deeply. A wonderful practice. In our world, we're constantly bombarded with uncomfortable situations, and how we handle those makes all the difference in the world. So we can practice that right now, being a little bit uncomfortable within reason, and then breathing our way through. When you feel like you're ready, you'll start to transition a little bit more onto the left side. 1 or 2 balls on more of the outer upper glute area, side of the hip. And be careful, this can be pretty intense. Moving around. You can even clamshell out this leg here. Move that leg in and out like you're running or cycling. So much of this is being intuitive about what's the right kind of movement or pressure. Remember, your wall is an option. We have 5 more breaths. Good, you guys. Just a couple more breaths. Okay, we'll start to make your way off of the balls. And we're going to transition into a release for your calf area. So ideally you're using 2 balls for this one. If you have 2 balls, you'll place one underneath your right calf. So I'm sitting, if you know yoga, it's sort of like deer pose. If you don't know yoga, it's this. And then the other one is on the top. So I'm kind of doing a pressing on the bottom and the top at the same time. So you can either start way up by your knee and work your way down, or vice versa. You can start down by your ankle and work your way up. So I've got 1 ball underneath and I'm doing pressure. Now, if you only had 1 ball, I would say put the ball underneath and use your hand on the top. Okay, so if you have 2, you can use the 2. And then you can see I'm just kind of moving it up the leg or down the leg. Pressing in and then coming out, and then pressing in and then coming out. The other option is to put some direct pressure on there, and you can do some circles with this other ball. Again, if you didn't have another ball, you can just do it even with your hand. And maybe it's more comfortable to just do with your hand. That's another option. If you have the 2 balls, you can try it with the 2 balls. And again, make sure you're getting the whole line of the outer part of your calf and the whole line of the inner part of your calf. This is once again our gallbladder meridian line that we're addressing on this right side. Way up by where your calf connects up into your knee and all the way down by the ankle. And we'll start to transition to side number 2 if you're ready. If not, please take your time, no rush at all. And when you're ready, you can switch sides, and with the ball or your own hand is also an option. And this other ball, you can make circles. Even if you didn't have a ball, you could do it with the heel of your own hand. And you can see I'm doing a little bit of even a little twisting with the ball. So you'll notice it kind of grabs the skin when you do that. Also could be done with the hand. This top ball, I'm just doing a little twist on the skin as I work my way down. That's another option. Take it or leave it. And when you feel like you've evened yourself out, you can set your balls off to the side. We're going to do a little stretch for the feet now, and then we'll do a stretch for the hips. So we'll go ahead and do a stretch for the feet in one way that actually addresses a stretch, but also myofascial release at the same time. I'm going to turn my back to you right now. So what's going to happen is you're going to place the top, so the bony part of my right foot goes to the arch of my left foot. So it's not over my ankle. My bony part right here is on the arch of my left foot. Now, if this is absolutely not possible because of your knees, you might choose to put a blanket, or sometimes blocks can work, or a block can work to kind of lift your hips up so you're not so much pressure behind the knees. Okay. And for some of us, the quads are so tight or the feet are so tight that you need to actually leave your hands forward. And for some of us, you're able to actually sit back. If none of this is possible because your knees say, no way, you could do this standing and just stretch the top of the foot this way. You won't be getting the arch pressure like the myofascial from the other foot, but you'll still get the stretch through the front of the foot and the toes. So if your knees are saying, no way, Jose, maybe stand up and just do this one where I'm almost like dragging my foot on the ground and then leaning back a bit. So I'm stretching the front of my foot. If you're able to do this one, then you do this one. And you might move around a little bit, or some of you might be able to lean back a little bit. Just be careful. Careful with the knees. Careful not to overstretch the feet. All right, let's switch sides. So right foot is now on the bottom. The top of the left foot is on the arch of the right. So it's almost like you're doing, again, it's almost like with your bony part of your own foot, you're doing a little myofascial release on the opposite one. And it can be a little uncomfortable, but check in. You control the intensity. Too much, you lean a little forward. If your knees don't like it, a block or a blanket or something between your hips and heels will help your knees not have to bend quite so much. If it's so intense in the quads that you can't even get to the feet, this can be a good idea. And remember, you could also, one foot at a time, obviously, do this stretch for the top of the foot. All right, so one more big breath in and out. Okay. We'll start to make our way onto our backs. And we're going to do a figure 4 stretch for the hips. And so this can be done in a few different ways. So if you have a wall nearby, that's my favorite, or a couch or something, because you can just relax into this stretch without having to make any kind of effort. So right ankle over left thigh. If you do not have something to put your foot on, you could still do this, just hanging on. But again, I love a situation where you don't have to effort to do the stretch. So maybe you have a couple blocks and you put your foot on your blocks, and that might give you what you need. If you're pretty limber, that's not going to be enough. If you're not, that'll be plenty. Now, if you do need a little more, you could cross, while you're crossing that ankle over, press that right thigh away a little bit. And maybe you'll get a little more if you need more. Relax your right shoulder if you're pressing on that right thigh. Make sure you're not scrunching into the shoulder. We don't want to take away the release that we did earlier by tensing up the neck now and the shoulder. So my elbow is actually on the ground, my right elbow, and I'm just Using a little pressure from my right hand to press my right thigh away a little bit. Take a big breath in. A long breath out. And then switch sides. So the second side, you may end up being a little looser or a little tighter. So if you're using the wall, you might need to move closer or move farther away. Check in. So you feel the left glute area, left hip area, without your butt lifting way up off the ground. And again, maybe a little pressure from your left hand on your left thigh to get a little bit more in that glute area. But only if you need it. Three more nice big breaths in and out. Now, if you are at the wall, you have a few options for your Shavasana. You might choose to take legs up the wall and simply relax into your elevated foot Shavasana. If you're on your mat, and take more of a traditional Shavasana. Legs can be extended or they can be bent, your choice. Let your arms lay open, palms open, down to your sides. Symbol of gratitude and a willingness to receive. Take a deep breath in. And this time an open mouth exhale. Letting everything go. Letting the practice go, letting your breath go. Quieting your mind for just a couple of minutes. Just allowing yourself to be. Without moving, begin to deepen your breath. Very slowly begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes and your ankles and your wrists. And take a deep breath in. You might reach your arms long over your head. And exhale. Very carefully rolling over onto one side through a fetal position and eventually making your way up to sit. Hands landing at your heart. taking a moment here to sit in gratitude for this body, for this life, for this practice. Bringing your thumbs to your third eye. The divine light in me honors and sees the divine light in all of you. Namaste. Have an amazing day, you guys. See you soon. Bye.